brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Jerry Lee Lewis. Jerry Lee Lewis is an American singer, songwriter, musician, and pianist, often known by his nickname, The Killer. He has been described as rock and roll's first great wild man. A pioneer of rock and roll and rockabilly music, Lewis made his first recordings in 1956 at Sun Records in Memphis. Crazy Arms sold 300,000 copies in the South. But it was his 1957 hit, Whole Lotta Shakin Goin On, that shot Lewis to fame worldwide. He followed this with Great Balls of Fire, Breathless and High School Confidential. However, Lewis' rock and roll career faltered in the wake of his marriage to his 13-year-old first cousin once removed when he was 23 years old. He had minimal success in the charts following the scandal, and his popularity quickly eroded. His live performance fees plummeted from $10,000 per night to $250. In the meantime, he was determined to gain back some of his popularity. In the early 1960s, he did not have much chart success, with few exceptions, such as a cover of Ray Charles' What Did I Say? His live performances at this time were increasingly wild and energetic. His 1964 live album Live at the Star Club, Hamburg is regarded by music journalists and fans as one of the wildest and greatest live rock albums ever. In 1968, Lewis made a transition into country music and had hits with songs such as Another Place, Another Time. This reignited his career, and throughout the late 1960s and 1970s he regularly topped the country western charts. Throughout his 7-decade career, Lewis has had 30 songs reach the top 10 on the Billboard Country and Western chart. His number 1 country hits included To Make Love Sweeter for You, There Must Be More to Love Than This, Would You Take Another Chance on Me and Bobby McGee. Lewis' successes continued throughout the decade, and he embraced his rock and roll past with songs such as a cover of the Big Boppers, Chantilly Lace and Mac Vickery's Rockin' My Life Away. In the 21st century, Lewis continues to tour around the world and still releases new albums. His album Last Man Standing is his best-selling to date, with over 1 million copies sold worldwide. This was followed by Mean Old Man, which has received some of the best sales of Lewis' career. Lewis has a dozen gold records in both rock and country. He won several Grammy Awards, including a Lifetime Achievement Award. Louis was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1986, and his pioneering contribution to the genre has been recognized by the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. He was also a member of the inaugural class inducted into the Memphis Music Hall of Fame in 1989. His life was chronicled in the movie Great Balls of Fire, starring Dennis Quaid. In 2003, Rolling Stone listed his box set All Killer No Filler, the anthology number 242, on the list of 500 greatest albums of all time. In 2004, they ranked him number 24 on the list of the 100 greatest artists of all time. Lewis is the last surviving member of Sun Records' Million Dollar Quartet and the Class of '55 album, which also included Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, Roy Orbison, and Elvis Presley. Early life. Louis was born in 1935 to the poor farming family of Elmo and Mamie Lewis in Faraday, Concordia Parish, in eastern Louisiana. In his youth, he began playing piano with 2 of his cousins, Mickey Gilley and Jimmy Swaggart. His parents mortgaged their farm to buy him a piano. Louis was influenced by a piano-playing older cousin, Carl McVoy, the radio, and the sounds from Haney's Big House, a black juke joint across the tracks. On the live album By Request, More of the Greatest Live Show on Earth, Lewis is heard naming Moon Mullican as an artist who inspired him. He was also influenced by the Great American Songbook and popular country singers like Jimmie Rodgers and Hank Williams. Williams in particular struck a chord with Lewis, who told biographer Rick Bragg in 2014, "I felt something when I listened to that man. I felt something different." His mother enrolled him in Southwest Bible Institute, in Waxahachie, Texas, so that he would be exclusively singing evangelical songs. But Lewis sparingly played a boogie-woogie rendition of "My God Is Real" at a church assembly, which ended his association with the school the same night. Peary Green, then president of the student body, related how during a talent show, Lewis played some worldly music. The next morning, the dean of the school called Lewis and Green into his office to expel them. Lewis said that Green should not be expelled because he didn't know what I was going to do. After that incident, he went home and started playing at clubs in and around Faraday and Natchez, Mississippi, becoming part of the burgeoning new rock and roll sound and cutting his first demo recording in 1954. He traveled to Nashville about 1955, where he played in clubs and attempted to build interest, but was turned down by the Grand Ole Opry, as he had been at the Louisiana Hayride Country Stage and radio show in Shreveport. Recording executives in Nashville suggested he switch to playing the guitar. Sun Record. In November 1956, Lewis traveled to Memphis, Tennessee, to audition for Sun Records. Label owner Sam Phillips was in Florida, but producer and engineer Jack Clement recorded Lewis' rendition of Ray Price's "Crazy Arms" and his own composition, "End of the Road." In December 1956, Lewis began recording prolifically as a solo artist and as a session musician for other Sun artists, including Carl Perkins and Johnny Cash. His distinctive piano playing can be heard on many tracks recorded at Sun in late 1956 and early 1957, including Carl Perkins' Matchbox, Your True Love, and Put Your Cat Clothes On, and Billy Lee Riley's Flyin' Saucers Rock Roll. Formerly, rockabilly had rarely featured piano, but it proved an influential addition, and rockabilly artists on other labels also started working with pianists. On December 4, 1956, Elvis Presley dropped in on Phillips to pay a social visit while Perkins was in the studio cutting new tracks, with Lewis backing him on piano. Johnny Cash was also there watching Perkins. The four then started an impromptu jam session, and Phillips left the tape running. These recordings, almost half of which were gospel songs, have been released on CD as $1 Million Quartet. Tracks also include Elvis Presley's Don't Be Cruel and Paralyzed, Chuck Berry's Brown-Eyed Handsome Man, Pat B. Youn's Don't Forbid Me, and Presley doing an impersonation of Jackie Wilson on Don't Be Cruel. Lewis' own singles advanced his career as a soloist during 1957, with hits such as Whole Lotta Shakin' Goin' On and Great Balls of Fire, his biggest hit, bringing him international fame, despite criticism for the song's overtly sexual undertones, which prompted some radio stations to boycott them. In 2005, Whole Lotta Shakin' Goin' On was selected for permanent preservation in the National Recording Registry of the Library of Congress. According to several first-hand sources, including Johnny Cash, Lewis, a devout Christian, was troubled by the sinful nature of his own material, which he believed was leading him and his audience to hell. This aspect of Lewis' character was depicted in Waylon Payne's portrayal of Lewis in the 2005 film Walk the Line, based on Cash's autobiographies. As part of his stage act, Lewis pounded the keys with his heel, kicked the piano bench aside and played standing, raking his hands up and down the keyboard for dramatic effect, sat on the keyboard, and even stood on top of the instrument. Lewis told the Pop Chronicles that kicking over the bench originally happened by accident, but when it got a favorable response, he kept it in the act. His first TV appearance, in which he demonstrated some of these moves, was on The Steve Allen Show on July 28, 1957, where he played Whole Lotta Shakin' Goin' On. His dynamic performance style can be seen in films such as High School Confidential and Jamboree. He has been called rock and roll's first great wild man and also rock and roll's first great eclectic. Classical composer Michael Nyman has also cited Louis' style as the progenitor of his own aesthetic. Classical composer Michael Nyman has also cited Louis' style as the progenitor of his own aesthetic. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.